Good morning everyone, Carol here at Oak House Journals. Big warm welcome from me. So with it being January, I'm doing Junk Journal January 2024 being hosted by Meg, and I'm working on today's prompt, which is number 29, geometric. Now the page on the left hand side is the page that I did for Ombre, and I'm going to do geometric on that right hand page. Here I've just got some paint samples or paint chips, and I'm trying to find a few that will pick up the same colour hues as the distress inks I used on the left hand side. This is the back of my glue book, and I'm absolutely loving the dark colour on there and the glossiness, so I'm going to be cutting some triangles out of that. So here I've created, or I am creating, some little templates to play with, and I have got some at the top there. I've got some very tiny ones just at the top of my piece of lightweight cardstock. I've got some intermediate size. I've just got one there on the top right. The three blue are obviously the next size up, and then that white one in the middle is just a frame. So here I am cutting out some of the triangles that I want to use. I'm going to use some white on my piece today. So just using a pencil and a ruler to draw out my little triangles and then cutting them out with my X-Acto knife. I've created three of those little delicate frames, and I'm just rubbing out the pencil lines with my rubber. And here just tracing a couple of triangles onto the back of my glue book. It was a little bit difficult to see, and again just using my X-Acto knife to cut out my triangles. So there's one. I think I cut out three of these. And here I'm using some of the paint chips to get some medium size triangles. I do go in later and use my scissors to cut out the very small ones, because it was easier than trying to hold them in place with my hold them in place and cut with the X-Acto knife. So here I'm having a little bit of a play on that background, and I decide that I don't like the background with the colours that I've chosen, so I'm going in here with the same colour palette that I used for the opposite page when I did the prompt Ombre, which was old paper, weathered wood and stormy sky. Now I actually used Distress Oxide Faded Jeans when I did the Ombre page, or the Ombre prompt, but I decided I'm not going to go in and use Distress Oxide on this page. So here I'm just building up the colour. This is just lightweight cream cardstock that I'm working on. I've got a scrap of card under my left hand, and that's just so that I don't get any finger marks as I'm building up the ink on this piece of cardstock. So going in, just trying to get a darker bottom edge to my page with the weathered wood. So that's how my page is looking, and now all I'm doing is going in with some water that I've sprayed onto the page just to get a light feathering of water droplets, and I'm dabbing it away with a paper towel, and it's picking up a slight imprint from the paper towel. Here I'm going in with splatters of water, and as you can see, as I'm dabbing it away, it's leaving some bleached, almost bleached marks on my page where it leaches out the ink. So there I'm just looking and checking that it sits well with the Ombre page. Not a perfect match, because obviously I didn't use the Faded Jeans in the combination that I used to create this background. So just trimming it to size using my trimmer, and I've got a couple of scraps there which come into play later on. Checking out the size on my page. And here I'm using one of those scraps, and my thought here in my head was to create a belly band, but even though I liked the look of it, I actually thought that it wouldn't work particularly well as a belly band, because some of those white frames, triangle frames, are a bit too delicate and would be catching whatever went into or behind the belly band. Here I've gone in with some messy machine stitching, a couple of rows on my machine with some off-white thread, just burnishing back and front of that page. And here I'm going in to create the main design. So I've put a line down the center of my page so that I can get everything more or less centered. Here I'm going in with the glue book triangles. Now these are slightly glossy, I'm hoping you can see that. Just a very small dab of glue in the center because I'm not sure whether I'm going to be popping things on top or underneath of these, so it just gives me some wriggle room to play with. So I'm going to put the camera on to hyperlapse for a second or two because this took absolutely ages as I faffed around trying to decide how I wanted my design to look. Really had fun doing this. It's amazing how tricky it can be to try and get everything symmetrical, and I didn't by any means. Here the design is built up a bit more, and you can see me putting in some of the very tiny little triangles in odd places, and then obviously I go in and I glue everything in place, and this is what it looks like when it's all glued in place. So I've got that odd scrap, and I'm wanting to tie my two pages together more than with just that background. So I'm taking that little triangle of paint chip, I've got one of these scraps of paper, and I'm just creating a little bit of an edge at the bottom of my triangle just to add a bit of interest when I pop it into that top left hand corner. So I'm liking how it looks, but I want to bring in a little bit of the darker colour as well. So here I've got another scrap, liking how that's looking, but I do get a bit carried away when I rip that scrap away, and I end up having a piece that is way too small. So I go back to another idea, which is to use another scrap, and this time to actually create a smaller triangle on top of the dark blue paint chip triangle. And by creating a smaller triangle, the paint chip triangle will act as a bit of a frame, or that's what I was hoping for. And that way it wouldn't look so stark on my piece, but would still tie in with the opposite page. So that's what I'm doing here. I decide I like how it looks, and I go in and glue my triangle in place, and then I glue the main triangle up in that top left hand corner, but I only glue it on two sides, and the reason for that is that I can use it as a tuck spot up in that corner if I want to. So there we go everybody, that's my page for today, with a little bit of fiddling with my left hand page, the ombre page, just to tie the two together. And I really enjoyed doing this one actually. I wasn't sure that I would, but I did. As you can see there, the page is not glued down. I could glue that down now, but I'm not going to because I want to do something else to that page before I actually finalise it. So as always, I'll leave you with a few close-up photographs so that you can see in more detail what I've done to create today's page for the prompt geometric. And until the next video, we've only got a few left in this Junk Journal January series for 2024, but I do hope you'll join me. And as I've just said, until the next video, take care everybody, happy crafting, bye bye now.